and it really resonated with me. I felt like it had a lot of, honesty and passion. And so I kind of wanted to first know, what's your background and why did you decide, and when did you decide to run in this district?
Well, first off, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And just want to say that I appreciate you. I love you. And out to everyone watching, I love you as well. And I love people. That's one of the main reasons that I wanted to run is I love people. My background, I'm an artist. I'm a web developer. I'm an activist. And I'm a community member. And in this community, particularly here in New York's 7th Congressional District, which spans Brooklyn, Queens, and Manhattan, is what they call a crossover district. So it's one of the few districts in New York City that actually has multiple boroughs in one district. So it's very gerrymandered, very diverse, lots of income inequality, and a place where I feel like universal basic income is very much needed and super important. As far as more about my background, I'm not a career politician. I'm not a lawyer, but I am someone that has studied politics heavily. I went to University of Maryland, College Park, and studied computer science as well as broadcast journalism. And, from there, I worked in news and then transitioned into working in development. And then I worked overseas in Spain in television and in education. So part of what makes me so uniquely qualified, not only to run for office, but to represent the people, is I've kind of had a lot of diverse experiences that, led me to speak to a lot of different lifestyles, a lot of different career paths, and as well as, know what it's like to be a real person. One thing that I say is that if you haven't applied for a job in 10 years, you should not be in office, right? Because in the last 5 years alone, looking for a job, I mean, if you're someone from the class of 2019, 2020, hey, even 2015, right? There has been, and if you talk to someone who maybe graduated college in the 1980s, some of them, these politicians, they may tell you, hey, you get your resume, you go up to them and say, hey, look, I'm Joe and I've got all the qualifications. It's like, it doesn't work like that anymore. That's not how people are hired. You have to go through these job portals where you're using keywords and they're searching through your resume. And, it's like you're entering your resume into the void. So a lot of people are coming out without jobs or they're starting their own businesses. And then we get into another issue where a lot of people these days are entrepreneurs, online entrepreneurs, or actually they're starting their own brick and mortar businesses. And, they have a lot of issues because our politicians have never ran businesses. My opponent is the chairperson of the Small Business Committee, yet has never ran a business before. And then we wonder why our small businesses are disappearing, and wonder why here in New York City, a place that literally is built on the backs of small and medium-sized businesses, how the bigger corporations and the large brick and mortar businesses and the tech companies have kind of taken all of the money. They have literally taken the food out of the mouths of the small business owners. So, and this comes from having politicians, again, who just don't know what it's like to be a real person and don't know what it's like to be a real person in this time. To talk to many of our elected officials in my district, you have to be a millionaire just to have their ear and really have the respect. If you can't donate or get help to generate millions of dollars for their campaigns, or tens of thousands of dollars for their campaigns, they don't want to hear what you have to say. So then what do I tell the homeless people in our district? What do I tell those who don't know where their next meal is coming from? What do we tell those who are working 2 and 3 jobs and still can't afford rent in New York City? So yeah, all of these things are things that made me want to run, and I could talk, a long time about that. So
no, I mean, you articulated it really well. It's just like this huge disconnect, right? between the political leaders and the people. And like you said, like if you haven't applied for a job or you don't know what it's like to get into the economy during a time like this in the past 5-10 years, like you really are very, very disconnected. And that's one of the dangers, I think, of having some of these politicians just run, like just keep on running, right? Is that they become even more disconnected from the realities. And it is a very tried and true tale of like people graduating and like getting this great degree and being like, okay, now what? Like now I just, like put my resume into the void and I'm never even going to hear back. I'm like, well, I'm overqualified people taking, different jobs that they didn't want to take. But, it seems like a part of why you're running is because you fundamentally obviously feel like our democracy is broken, right? You say at every turn they've been doing stuff to try and stop us, right? When it comes to the democracy. So from your perspective, who is they and what tactics have they employed that have led you to become frustrated? Or what tactics do you think that you perceive them doing, to hold our democracy back? Yes.
So there's two sides of that question into that statement. One, there's the sides of what they, the proverbial they have done to stop this campaign. Me as Paperboy Prince running for Congress, what they've done to, and just to clear it up for everyone, that is my name on the ballot, Paperboy Prince. I get that question a lot. So, but what have they done to stop us from getting on the ballot during coronavirus, during all of the protests, during the rioting, the lockdown? What have they done with that? And then also it's about what have they done to try to stop us collectively as Americans from, receiving that life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness that the preamble to the Constitution promised us. So for me personally, one of the main things that they've done to stop us, first off, I'll say this, right? In the primary I'm going up against an incumbent that has been there for 27 years in the same seat, and then has been in office even before that in different regards. So my point is this, and when you talk to political analysts and experts, what they say is that the reason that these people are in these seats is because they're so great and they really won over their electorate and they have a deep connection with their constituency, when that is all a lie. The real reason is they've used corruption and they've used voter suppression to stay in power. The voter suppression, I mean, it would take me hours to talk about the amount of voter suppression that currently exists in our democracy. And some of it I was not aware of until I started running for office, and trying to analyze it from the standpoint of getting out and trying to reach people who are affected, trying to reach people who are immigrants, people who maybe speak different languages, folks who are disabled, folks with different educational backgrounds, right? Single moms, single dads, families, all of these things. There's so much voter suppression. One of the first things I'll say is this, because it's happening right now. In New York, they have early voting, which is great. You get to vote early and it takes pressure off of the polls on voting day, is how it's supposed to work. But so 9 days before voting day, election days rather, we have early voting. And my campaign was working on making a graphic to make it simple for constituents to find out their early voting locations and the times that they could go there. But when you go on the website, which I believe is like vote.nyc or something like that, the times for early voting are so off and staggered. Like you would think it would be like every day from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. you can early vote. Yeah. Right? Or every day from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Something simple. It's like Mondays, it's 7 to 1. Tuesdays, it's 9 to 12. Like it's no type of actual consistency there. I mean, if you tried to put it on a flyer, there's no clean way to say Monday through Friday, you can early vote from 9 to 5. On weekends, it's, 7 to 3 or something. It is not, they don't make it simple. They don't make it easy for you. Another form of voter suppression. Again, like I said, I live in New York City, how I like to call the advertising capital of the world. And, everywhere, especially here in Brooklyn, we kind of live in like a hipster neighborhood, right? Some would call. And so we have all the biggest brands constantly marketing to us, whether that's a sunglass company, whether that's some type of alcohol company or a new movie coming out. We constantly get ads, and they're doing all these creative things to reach us because they know a lot of us are influencers, and kind of our community, if we like it, it kind of will ripple through America, right? And so there's heavy emphasis on advertising, and New York City, as well as New York City's elected officials, know the power of advertising because they help to sell billions of dollars in ad space on our subways and on our bus stops and all these things. So if you wanted to sell us some Nikes, some tennis shoes, the ad is engaging, it's sexy, it's relatable to the community. When it comes to voting, it is the most boring, dry, confusing. It's like they don't want you to vote, and that's exactly what it is. They don't want you to vote. They want you to feel so disenfranchised, so like and plus confused, exactly. And in New York City, and in many places around the country, but particularly in New York City, there's 100 more things that are more fun to do, and sometimes even feel more important than vote, right? In New York, we got Broadway, we have the Knicks, we have the Nets, we have all these little local shows and events. You have dinner with your friends, there's restaurants, there's the biggest celebrities in the world in town every single day. So what are they doing to actually help us get the vote out and getting people more excited about voting? Nothing at all. And in my district, we have over 750,000 people in my district. About 250,000 of them are registered Democrats. So the upcoming primary, it's overwhelmingly Democrat, our district, right? So like if you're a Democrat in this district and you win the primary, you pretty much always win outside of some freak of nature thing happening, right? And so out of the 250,000 registered Democrats, normally, and this is before coronavirus, before the protests, all this, normal elections, only 4% of registered voters show up to vote in the primary.
Right.
4% of registered voters show up to vote in the primary. And I've never heard any of my elected officials cite this as a problem, cite this as an issue, cite this as a failure to our democracy, because a democracy is only as strong as its participants. How many people are actually participating in our democracy, right? And when it's a select few, that means they're the ones choosing. It's a few choosing for the many. And at that point, it's nothing but a sham democracy or a dictatorship. So, I've been very direct in calling out and talking about using more unconventional methods, more creative methods, more outside of the box methods to bring more people into democracy, because it should help us all. The more voices that are actually in, it should help us all. And if their way was working and everything was perfect, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be running for office. We wouldn't need all of these people that are running for office and trying to inspire change, because things would be working correctly. So it's a lot of issues that have not been addressed, have not been resolved, and they want it to kind of continue this way. And that's one of the reasons that, when I first heard about Andrew Yang, and this was probably in January of 2019, and I'm a rapper, right? I have my suit on today, but I'm a rapper and I'm a performer and I'm a performance artist and I'm a pretty well-known rapper here. And so I said, hey, I'm going to start making songs about Yang's campaign, because when I found out about it, maybe like, 20 or 30,000 followers on Twitter, I talked to my friends who were like political, nerds about him. They hadn't heard anything about him. They weren't focused on him at all. So I dropped my first song called Yang Gang, right? The Yang Gang Anthem. And I dropped it.
Wait, is that the one? Can you do it or no?
Yeah, I can do it. It's like doing it for Yang, and we put that on Gang. Or how does the song go? I have it on my computer somewhere. Actually.
Oh my gosh, that's so, I didn't even know that.
You didn't know that was me? Yeah.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, so like I was one of the first people in. I hate to say it like this, but I was one of the first people actually in the Yang Gang. You know.
Wow.
Yeah, so this was like, I want to say like March or something when the song dropped, and then I also put out a video and I put it out, and 20 minutes later, Yang tweeted it out. You know what I'm saying? And then a day or two later, he did a live stream where he's singing the song in the car. He's like riding to an event with some staffers, and he's singing the song to the car, and he's talking about how his children, it's their favorite song, and they're saying, you know, doing it for Yang and put that on Gang and all this stuff. And I was like, wow, to me, that was special because, you know, a rap song that I created and shot the video for in my bedroom ended up being, you know, used and promoted by a viable presidential candidate.
Right.
And,
that's amazing.
And he saw the vision of, hey, someone doing something creative, something out of the box to get people excited about a Democratic Party. I mean, a Democratic primary, which, let's be honest, a lot of people, they know the time to vote is November 4th. They're not thinking about the primary, especially over a year out, right? Because the primary for Andrew Yang is coming up June 23rd right now, which is the same date as my election, June 23rd. I was June 23rd, 2020. This song came out March 2019. I'm advertising to my friends and my fans about the primary over a year in advance, right? I mean, there's just there were no rappers of my stature doing this that consistently, and not only doing this, but doing their research on a candidate and backing what at that time was seen as a long shot candidate. When I was making that song, everybody was like, we were still fighting to get Yang on like TV and stuff like that. Like it was like that. We were like a part of that crew, like get Yang on TV. Like, yeah, come on.
Like, could we just see him say like 2 words on TV?
Right. You know what I mean? And so I doubled down with that. And I ended up dropping, you know, a whole Andrew Yang album. And he tweeted out a bunch of the songs, 3 or 4 of the songs. One of the songs went super viral in the community. I did a performance. One of the songs went super viral in the community. I did a performance here, actually on Myrtle Broadway, where I'm holding a protest here in Brooklyn tomorrow, a big protest. But the song there called "Gotta Do the Math," right, which is the slogan, and it has a dance to it. And I also performed this song at Yang's rally here in New York. But you know, what I was doing was I was breaking down universal basic income. I was breaking down these policies and the importance of them, doing it in a way that's accessible, right? Because if I'm sitting there and people are getting off work and they're doing what they do, and I'm sitting there trying to talk to them about politics, you know, a lot of people, a popular phrase is, I don't want to talk politics, right? But if but if I'm singing it in a song, and better yet, if I'm rapping in a song, even better than that, I'm dancing. Now it's something the kids can do, not something that moms can do. They're not even thinking about politics. They're just thinking about, I'm having a good time. I'm having fun. And that's what it's supposed to be about. And then once they're having fun and having a good time, now they're even more receptive to, okay, so what's universal basic income and how can this policy help me? So doing things like that. I even had a hair. You see, I have my hair dyed. I had an Andrew Yang. I had the first Andrew Yang hairdo, which I had 1,000 on this side, right? And then I had a Y on this side of my hair. And we did a tour across the East Coast where we were promoting universal basic income as well as my Yang album. And, you know, I had this $1,000 on my head and I'm walking around in my community. And people are like, yo, you got $1,000 in your head. What that's about? You getting money? Like, what's that about? And I'm like, oh no, this 1,000. I said, have you ever heard of Andrew Yang? And they're like, nah, who's that? Well, I'm like, he's running for president. And his proposal is to give everyone a universal basic income in the form of $1,000 a month. And then to my surprise, when I tell this to people, so many of them are like, yo, that's a great idea because that would help to solve so many issues. That would help to solve. There'd be no reason to do any robberies if people know that they have a check coming at the beginning of the month that they can invest to things that matter to them and that they can, you know, help feed their families on things like this. People saw the where this policy could be applied immediately. So for me, but what they had to do is have someone to meet them where they are. A lot of our
Right,
politicians,
exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
a lot of our politicians, they're so on their high horse. They're so comfortable using this political jargon and playing this role of I'm the good guy, I'm the good gal politician, that they forget that their whole purpose and their whole role is to be there to serve the people, to help the people, you know, to be more compassionate. So
no, I think that is pretty revolutionary, and I think that carried on through his campaign. You know, when I was canvassing for him, and everything like that, just using creative ways to get people's attention and not make it feel like I was coming at them as like, hey, look at this presidential candidate. It's, you know, you have to engage people on a human level,
right?
Because people, like, I think people just inherently can tell that politics is not about them. And it's not serving them. It's all just talk, and then nothing, you know, ever gets done. So I actually just wanted to switch gears a little bit. Well, first, Jay says, Native running for president. Mark, I haven't heard of him. Maybe you get him on your channel. Okay, I will look into that, Jay. Thank you. I did want to transition into, you know, people are protesting right now. It's like a crisis upon a crisis, right? And I would just like to get your opinion on, from your perspective, what is going on right now in the country. You know, the protests, it was started by George Floyd's murder, but in your opinion, is it something more than that? Is it also even something beyond, you know, police brutality?
Right. You know, well, I think the first wave of the protests were the protesters who were like the ones that the news kind of portrayed as like the Trump supporters who are like taking over like the Michigan.
Right.
You know, that to me was like the first wave of the protests, because you know, people had issues with how the government was handling coronavirus. I mean, and they weren't taking much insight, there wasn't much collaboration with the community in any states, in any cities. You know, it was like all of the politicians looked at it as like, this is my time to shine. Now I get to tell everybody what to do. Like, all eyes on me. And especially here in New York, we had to sit and listen to Andrew Cuomo. I mean, you know, give us his briefing like he was actually doing something, when his job was to act way earlier. You know, that you get a hand clap from me for being a futurist, not for being reactionary. And that's what happened with a lot of the politicians. So I think a lot of this is, yes, you know, people were fed up with the police brutality for a long time. People have been fed up with the police brutality and, you know, with the police killings. I mean, and then it's caught on video. It's like, I didn't even watch the video because I personally could not watch that. But, you know, and part of it was because we know how it goes, you know, and that is just sickening. And I think people know that it's time for an actual change, you know, and not just some minute change, but actually having a systemic change and actual structural change when it comes to, you know, the police department, and when it comes to just public safety, right? We have to like rethink all of these things. And one of the things that I talk about is the one size fits all approach we have to policing. You know, the approach we have to policing, if we had that same approach with healthcare, you know, your dentist and gynecologist would be the same person, right? It's like when it comes to police, it's the same people with a badge and a gun and a nightstick for every single issue. And we have people with disabilities. We have people with mental health issues. We have people who just had a bad day and need a hug. Mm-hmm. And we need our resources and our, you know, first responders to be up to the task. And I don't blame and I think that the people don't blame the individual officers as much as they blame the politicians and the leadership of the police department that has kind of like upheld this culture and has also like not made any type of change. Because for me, like the police, they're working class people, right? They're not like some like oligarch. They're like working class people who just like need a job, a lot of them. But the system that they work under uses that. It uses the fact that they're working class people against other working class people. And now we have this class war that's happening, that is being funded by the banks, that's being funded by the corporations and Wall Street, and it's being fronted by the politicians who are in the corporation's back pocket. So I think the people are just upset. I've been a leader of many protests in New York over the last few weeks, and I kind of came out just to show my support and show that stand up and hold truth to power. And being who I am in the community, I ended up quickly taking a leadership role because people wanted to hear what I had to say, and they wanted to hear the truth, and they were tired of hearing from the same old people, because they know if you hear from the same old politicians and the same old activists, you're going to get the same old results, right? And when you actually listen to fresh ideas and fresh voices and fresh perspectives, you get fresh results. You get actual solutions. And that's what we've been pushing for. And I got to tell you, since we've been doing that, our support here in the community has really skyrocketed to the point where, multiple of our local elected officials have kind of like had to team up just to match our energy. I'm in a one-on-one election, right? Yeah. Which no one wants to talk about. We've been completely blackballed by the media because I'm such an unconventional candidate. If they actually show the fact that I'm viable, I mean, I'm already was a community leader. I wasn't someone who's like a no-name person and then ran for office. I already was doing events with 200, 300, 400, 500 people showing up on a weeknight in my community, in my district. That was normal. It's actually what I was known for, right? So then when I started having my political rallies and 1,000 people show up and our city council members try to brush it off as like, oh, that's nothing, that's just a rapper doing his thing. But it's like, wait, or they say, oh, well, hopefully they vote. But it's like, wait, we have thousands of people in the streets. In my campaign ad, some of the scenes from it are from City Hall, where we took over City Hall on February 14th, which is Valentine's Day, of course, for love. My name's Paperboy Prince, and one of my primary policies is spreading love. It's talking about the power of love. And, a lot of people have issues with Donald Trump, and they say he spreads hate, he spreads division, they don't like what he says, but their solution is never to spread love. Their solution is never to spread compassion. For us, we see the power of hate, and that's why we're so vocal and so adamant about spreading love and not embarrassed to put spreading love as one of our core principal policies. People laugh at me now, but in 10 years, if you don't have spreading love as one of your core principal policies, you will not even be able to run for office because of the precedent that we're setting. We've already showed how eager people are for love because the people are hurting, the people are depressed, and they know that their politicians don't care about them and they don't love them. I say all the time, have you ever heard your politician, your local elected official tell you that they love you? And everyone says no. And I say, that's because they don't. That's because they don't. And we should have people in office fighting for us that love us. If you're going to fight for women's rights, then you need to love women. If you're going to fight for Black people, then you need to love Black people. If you're going to fight for the middle class, then you need to love middle class people. If you're going to fight for poor people, you need to love poor people. If you're going to fight for the people, you need to love the people. You got to love them. And no one is talking about this. And, it's taken a rapper to come and articulate this. And I'll say, on top of that, I was mentioning how we've been blackballed. They don't want to cover us because they know once they actually have to sit us down and we talk with our opponent or we talk with anyone in our local political scene, they know that we're a force to be reckoned with. And they know that everything that we're saying makes a lot of sense. I have a crazy, I'll say in parentheses, in quotes, I have a crazy type of style and, kind of like a wacky type of vibe, but our message, it couldn't be any more relatable and couldn't be any more honest and real. Oh yeah. And, no, I mean, you go ahead. That is actually what, attracted me, like when I saw that video, that is because it was so not like,
polished in the way that, you know, a politician would do an ad, or the way that you want to see, that you expect a politician to do an ad, and the way that people would try and run a campaign. It was so real and raw, and you just saw that, right? You just felt it. And you know, you said in it, I mean, you said a few things that I thought were pretty powerful. You know, you said they made this city about money, and then they act funny when we don't have it, right? They criminalize being poor. And you said that in your district, there's a lot of income inequality. Do you have any like personal experiences or stories that you have seen in your district or your own life that where you can speak to this?
Yes. So, you know, I've been blessed to be able to live all in many different places. You know, I live in New York now. I've lived in DC. I've lived in Spain and a bunch of places in America. You know, as an artist, I've been able to tour all across the country. You know, I worked with Azalea Banks. And so we've toured like over 50 cities. I've been all over the country. And in New York, more than any other place, I've seen so many young homeless people. I mean, it's something like, it's like over 100,000 children in New York City public schools that are homeless or that have housing or that are housing insecure. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of kids that don't have a home. And I know people that, you know, me, I'm a young adult. I know tons of young able-bodied people with jobs that don't have a home. We call them, you know, people that are like, they're living with their girlfriend or living with their boyfriend or whatever, or they're trying to like spend the night with friends or on couches, you know, couch surfing, because there hasn't been anyone who's actually addressed poverty dead on, addressed homelessness dead on. I mean, and here it's a big issue because the rent is so high and it's consistently rising. And our politicians, my opponent, for example, has taken over their career tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars from the real estate interest, you know? So places where many people who are seniors, who have owned their homes and paid off their homes, are losing their homes because they might be behind on a utility bill. You know, you might be a 70-year-old senior, you've paid off your Bed-Stuy brownstone, which is now worth $4 to $6 to $8 million, right? And when you got it, it was worth a fraction of that. Now it's worth $8 million and rising. And if you don't pay, if you get behind on your water bill, on your light bill, they can take your home from you in the city of New York. And this is happening all over. And none of the politicians are talking about it because they're getting money from the same people that are taking these people's homes. And these politicians claim to be on the side of the little guy. They claim to be on the side of, you know, minorities and women and poor people, and they'll even look like us too. And these same people, these same people are the same ones that the most rapid gentrification of all time has happened under their watch. In my district, under my opponent, some of the most, I mean, other parts of the country actually study this district in this area of Brooklyn as a model for gentrification, you know, as a model because it's so, I mean, if you come here, you'll see it. It'll be like, and if you talk to people who've lived here a while, you'll be like, you used to not walk on that block without a gun. And now
I do actually remember this. Like a few years ago, I went to Brooklyn. I think I was with my mom, and she was like, you know, this has really changed over the years, right? And so, no, but I think something that you said that really was very poignant is, like, you said they even look like us, you know, in your district. I know that it's like, I think it's almost 40%. I think it's almost 40% Hispanic.
Yeah, it was.
I think, right? And I was like trying to think about this. Like, yes, we need more people who represent us, you know, in terms of our ethnicity and who look like us. But like, there is this strange phenomenon that happens, I think, with the older generations, where it's like, okay, so then they got into power and they're okay with being in power, and it becomes like this tokenism sort of dynamic of like, all right, as long as I can protect my own power structure here within this whole system, I am not going to try and fight for anyone else except for myself, right? And maintaining my power structure. So, I mean, I think that's a really important point. But with her, you know, I was looking at like the past elections, and she has won significantly. So, like, what has she done? I don't even know what she's exactly known for. Has she done anything, or is it just mostly advertising? Like, how is she winning?
Well, like I was saying earlier, it's from corruption and voter suppression. Again, with only 3% to it's somewhere from 3 to 5% of registered voters showing up. Is like, I like one of the things that inspired me to run when I saw that, you know, these elections, it's only sometimes 16,000 votes being cast. I'm like, 16,000 votes. I have 16,000 people that will come to our events over the span of a year, or, you know, I've performed in front of that many people before. So that those numbers didn't seem crazy to me. Also, many of the people that have ran against my opponent are in the past have been, you know, no names. I don't want to say it like that, but people that I'm sure are great people, but as far as inside of the community, they didn't have as much support. You know, we have an actual support system, and actually have, you know, been out here connecting with the people for a long time in a real way, and also in a very visible way, which I think is important, because a lot of people do a lot of community work, but some of it is so behind the scenes that the people don't know them. But we've been doing community work, and we've also been doing, you know, entertainment and education. And so a lot of things that put us in front of the people, so they're already familiar with our name, our face, and what we stand for. Like, oh, Paperboy, I know what, you know, you stand for. And so that gives us a big leg up. And as well as, you know, your question was about what has she done?
Yeah, I was just wondering, is there any good reason? I think that's really the question. Is there any good reason? And I don't think like name recognition is a good reason that she has been successful for this many years. Right.
Well, I think it also is because, you know, the way the system is set up, anyone that is kind of a lower office in New York City politics wouldn't challenge this person, or they don't challenge the incumbents because, you know, they want to wait their turn. And a lot of them were put in power by the incumbents to ensure their own safety and ensure their own job, you know? I was just talking to someone about this today. We have district leaders here, which, you know, basically lead the Democratic Party in that specific district, but their main function is to run the poll sites on election day. That's kind of like one of their main functions, right? And who puts them there? The incumbent. So the person who chooses who runs the polls in the elections is the very person that's getting voted for. How is this not corruption? How is this not voter suppression? How is this one person? I mean, to quote Kanye, no one person should have all that power. That is way too much power for one person to have. And the way it's getting, you know, the way they get this over on the people is that the average person just knows to show up and click the button. They don't know the inner workings of their local democracy and of their local Democratic Party, and especially the young people. And on top of that, especially the people that are affected and most need help from their politicians. So this is why I'm so passionate about getting involved, and it's why we're doing so many creative things to get the word out. And, you know, I'll say this, my opponent before we started throwing these massive rallies and protests where thousands of people are showing up. And before that, my opponent did not post on Instagram, barely posted on Twitter. Since we have these rallies, thousands of people showing up, now they're posting 3-4 times a day on Twitter. Now every policy I talk about, they have to talk about. Now, you know what I mean? And people are saying, oh, wow, yeah, they're starting to step up. And it's like, no, we're putting so much pressure on them that they have to care. I just did a video talking about Elliot Engel, who is the current congressperson in New York's 16th congressional district. And he's made headlines recently because he was caught on a hot mic saying, and he said this twice, he was caught on a hot mic saying at a Black Lives Matter rally, you know, and this is in front of the press, where you know how they have all the mics there and everything.
Right.
He's on the hot mic, and he says, you know, if I didn't have a primary, I wouldn't be here. And then the guy who's talking to me is like, excuse me, I didn't hear what you said. He said, I said, if I didn't have a primary, I wouldn't even be here. And the guy's like, man, don't say that to me. But this is, and he didn't know that the mics were recording. Now, this shows also, right. Now, this shows his incompetence because literally he was standing at the podium. All the mics were there. I mean, but it also shows how comfortable they are and how arrogant they are that they would have the audacity to say this on the grounds of a protest for lives that have been lost due to brutality by the state, you know?
Crazy.
So, and this is why I'm holding the fire to these establishment Democrats and these establishment politicians and the ones that people say, oh, they're progressive. They've been fighting for progressive values for so long. Look at their voting record. And it's like, no, look how lazy. Exactly. What do they have to show for it?
Have they really been standing up there fighting for these issues? Or do they just kind of passively vote yes or no on whatever is the accepted vote for whatever bill comes across their desk, right? Like, I think we need more people like standing up there and fighting for these things tooth and nail. Exactly. And making it, because when I was at these Democratic club meetings, and I was speaking to my elected officials, because here there was several endorsement meetings, right, where we meet with the local clubs, and I would get to talk to them. You know, many of the individuals there are older, and you know they're political insiders. And there was one meeting where I had 3 members of Congress, all that their districts are in Brooklyn. Well, I'll just say their names: Hakeem Jeffries, Yvette Clark, my opponent, and as well as several city council members, state senators, state assembly members. In this room of about 50 people, there was like 10 or 15 elected officials there, right? And I'm the youngest of them all, and not saying that to say, oh, I'm the youngest, so great. I'm saying it to say that I'm also probably was one of the people who are like most from the community, right? And I sat there, and my message to them, my goal was not to be articulate. My goal was not to impress them. My goal was to have the same energy and the same passion and the same conviction that the people in the community that are hungry, that are tired of our poor education, that are tired of our lack of housing, that are tired of these ineffective Democrats. I had to have that same energy when I was talking to them. And you can go back and look at the videos from 6 months ago when I told them that riots were coming. I said it. I said the people are going to start rioting in the streets. And they looked at me like I was crazy and insane. And at that time, maybe I was. I was like, yo, people, and I was telling them the importance of a basic income with this. I was saying, we need real solutions. We need radical solutions. We need to try something. Don't tell me that it can't work. Try it first and then let it be wrong. But don't tell me that it can't work. And that's all they had to say. And they sat there and guess what? They laughed at me. They actually laughed. I watched Congress people laugh when I talked about people being hungry and dying and depressed. And for me, you know, that was just completely unacceptable. And that's why, and people see this and they notice this. And now they want to pretend like they care. They had the chance to put something about police brutality on their website. They had a chance to put something about ending poverty and universal basic income and radical solutions on their website. And they didn't do it. And they only care when their primary starts getting hot. And they start having that pressure on them. And so for me, what's astonishing about what we're doing and speaks to, you know, why the press doesn't want to cover us, why local press doesn't want to cover us, and why national press doesn't want to cover us. We've made it this far in the election with $0. I didn't want to raise any money.
I said, you know what? I don't want to raise any money because I want to prove we can do this with the people. I already had a team of volunteers, so many volunteers. Now we get about 30 volunteers a day, literally so many.
Wow, that is insane.
I mean,
that's incredible.
Yes, this whole time we've run a completely volunteer squad, and we have all stars. I'm talking about web developers who work for major companies. I'm talking about, political consultants who have worked with some of the best, who've decided to come and work for our campaign for free. It's college students who are working for our campaign for free because they believe in it. They see change and they're having fun and they feel the love. And we made it this far, and now we're raising a couple $1,000s a day. Mind you, I've never made one fundraising call this whole campaign. They told me that
is insane. That's incredible. Yeah. Like, huge freaking congratulations for getting that far with just literally the power of the people. That's really unheard of.
It's completely unheard of. It's $0 and get on the ballot. My opponent spent over 10 grand to keep me off the ballot during coronavirus, during a global pandemic where we were calling and saying, hey, we should probably push back petitioning the process to get on the ballot. Basically, you have to go and have people sign papers. Right. And, we were saying, hey, it was happening in March, right when coronavirus was popping off. And we said, hey, seems like a bad idea. Seems like a health risk. They were like, no, you have to do it. This is democracy. I'm like, feel like we're killing people, but okay. And we said, hey, to uphold democracy, we should push back petitioning, or we should do something to make it fair so everyone can do it. They shortened it. They made it less signatures than you needed, but they shortened the time, effectively keeping hundreds of people off the ballot all over New York State. And to add insult to injury, my opponent, mind you, it's a one-on-one election. My opponent didn't want any competition. They didn't want the voters to have a choice at all. And they saw coronavirus as an opportunity to make sure that the voters would not have any choice of on election day. And so they spent over $10,000 to get one of the best election lawyers in the state. In fact, this same election lawyer kept AOC off of the Working Families Party ballot line in New York, because they run, people will run as Democrat and as Working Families and as Sam, they'll run as multiple parties to make sure they're on the ballot. He kicked AOC off of the Working Families Party ballot line and because he's and she's one of the richest Democrats in New York, or richest meaning, has raised some of the most money. And that same lawyer, I went toe to toe with myself. People told us to get a lawyer. They told us to, we got quoted $6 grand for a lawyer. And actually AOC's election lawyer said that they would, work with their rate for us. And we talked with them, but I did my research. I read through the laws and I said, you know what? I think I'm going to represent myself here. And I represented myself in front of the Board of Elections, and the Board of Elections unanimously agreed that Paperboy Prince should stay on the ballot because of a defect made by my opponent and their legal team. And, again, with $0,
that is incredible. Like a huge, man.
And to say one last thing, the reason that I keep mentioning $0 is not to brag. It's to show that, our support comes from this district. If you look at my opponent's campaign contributions, if you look at many of our elected officials here in New York's campaign contributions, a lot of them come from people that don't live in New York at all. Companies and citizens that are outside of the city have more influence on our elections than the people that are affected, than the people in the public housing, than the students that are in our local universities and public schools. And this is a big issue for me. So I said, you know what? I know I can raise money. I have connections to money and funds, and my parents own businesses. So, but literally with $0, we made it this far because we wanted to make a statement that we're not going to let outside influences run our election. We're going to let love and compassion and the people be the power of this election and the power of this campaign. All power to the people. So
that's incredible. Man, I really hope that you win on Tuesday. I guess this kind of goes without saying that universal basic income is a top issue, but what would be the top 3 issues that, if you could only push 3 policies, what do you think would make the most impact on people's lives?
Right. So, of course, universal basic income, and that there's so many reasons I could list with that. But I know that if I ask the average person what is troubling in them, a big thing is money. They don't know. It's like I said in my campaign ad, they made this city all about money, and they act funny when we don't have it. In New York City, if you want to just do something as simple as and as human as use the bathroom, you have to go somewhere and pay money to use the bathroom. There aren't public restrooms really available for the people in the streets. This is just a very basic issue, right? And, so just to use the bathroom, you have to have money. To have a house, you have to have money. This is simple stuff, but really follow what I'm saying here. You can't pitch a tent on Times Square. You can't pitch a tent on Broadway. You have to get a real estate broker, and you have to have a credit score that is good, and you have to have, be able to have proof of income and all of these things to get a house. They made this city about money and credit, and then they act funny when people don't have it. What happens to the people that don't have that? What happens to the people that are immigrants or children of immigrants and actually just want to make a better life for themselves, but can't because the system is putting so much pressure on them in so many different ways? So the basic income is a big thing for me. Healthcare for all. I think that it's a pity that we've tied healthcare to our jobs and to employment, and that turns it into some type of indentured servitude, and that's completely unfair. And we see with the coronavirus pandemic that we're only as healthy as our sickest person. If your roommate, if your neighbor, if your mailman, if your delivery person has coronavirus and they deliver your Chipotle or whatever it is you're getting, your Starbucks, now you got it too. And that goes with whatever virus is coming. And I always was saying this even before the pandemic came. I'm like, why wouldn't you want healthcare to be accessible to all? And the overwhelming majority of Americans, I believe polls show that like over 70% of Americans, think healthcare should be for everyone, and especially after coronavirus. So that's an issue that's important to me. And then this policy is one that I love. It's one that's unique. It's one that I'm the only candidate in New York State that I know of that's talking about this, and that's spreading love. And what does spreading love look like as an actual public policy? Spreading love would manifest itself as basically futuristic community centers starting in every congressional district in America, and then eventually in every block in America. So on every street in every block. Now in New York, we're so condensed. There's 100,000 people just in a block or two, right? And I know in other places it's more spread out, so it's different. But I'm going to speak specifically to my people here in New York, and people who are in cities that can kind of relate to what I'm talking about. There should be a place in every neighborhood, I'll say, that if you're feeling down, you can go there and somebody can spread love to you. If you need a friend, you can go there and there's a friend. If you have somebody in your family that passed away and you just want to be around people, you can go there and be around people. If you want to learn a new skill and see a community member who wants to volunteer and teach that skill, you should be able to learn it. If you want to learn a new language and want to meet up with a community member that wants to volunteer and teach that, you should be able to have that. If you want to have a place where, you need money or water or food, there should be centers that are just for the people. And when I say this, I'm not saying this as some, idea that's a pie in the sky. I'm saying this as it's something that I'm doing and practicing right here, right now. Before I even came to this interview, I was at my campaign office, which is called the Paperboy Prince Protest Power Palace Protest Resource Center and Campaign Office. We made it a long name just to, put it all in there and make it fun. But, and another thing, many people said I would never have a campaign office, and we have a beautiful campaign office. And people said we would never have a bus. We're one of the only candidates in New York with a bus. that we're taking around the city, and people know us for our bus. That's beautiful. So, but I'm saying this to say that right now, what we're doing as it relates to my policy about spreading love, we're actually, holding, we're giving out food to the community with community fridges. So I'm partnered with a local organization called the Friendly Fridge, where basically it's a community fridge and it's community ran. And anybody that has food or that makes food or businesses that want to donate food, they come and they stock up the fridge. And then,
I love that.
And then anybody, it doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, hungry, you just ate, you can walk by the fridge, look inside, just like it's your fridge at home, grab something out, and then keep it moving. And
I love that. I mean, because I know, like, I knew someone who worked at a Starbucks, right? And like at the end of the day, he would literally take like huge trash bag full of food that they did not sell, and he would try and give it out to people, but they would literally be just throwing away bags of food. And I'm just like, if only this could just be automatically dispersed to the people who need it. But there's so much incredible waste. And actually something that I really love is how you're talking about, like, the virus is such a clear reflection that we are only as healthy as our like sickest person. It's so common sense. But like, I was thinking from the very beginning, it's like, we don't care about the homeless in our country. We don't care about the sick and homeless in our country, like, freezing out in the streets. But the minute that there's a virus that can get to everyone in the population, everyone could be vulnerable to it, all of a sudden we care, right? But like, beyond that, it doesn't matter, because unless it hits the elites, it does not matter. But I think that's a really, evolved way of looking at our society, that we are all connected, right? Like, not even just about like, you can't pitch your tent on New York Times Square or whatever, because it's like an inconvenience to people. But it's like, are you serious? Like, I mean, if you think about it, like, people can't even make shelter for themselves in a public space. And if you are so bothered by the fact that people need to make a shelter for themselves in a public space, then get them housing, right? Like, I mean, it's like, but there's such a disconnect. Politicians aren't doing those things to make the society more comfortable for everyone.
Right.
But we're starting to break that.
And to take what you're saying a step further, the way that how you just mentioned what I was saying about, we're only as healthy as our sickest community member. I'll take that a step further and take it to the policy I mentioned about spreading love with mental health. We're only as happy and mentally healthy and, as our most depressed person in our community. If someone is sad, if someone is upset, if someone isn't having a good life and they don't feel loved, that affects us all, because studies show that same person may try to assault someone, try to harm someone, try to do something to get attention, because there aren't enough things in place to actually help us and spread love. Many people in my community will, and especially in the wintertime, you speak to the homeless people, will purposefully go to jail because they know it's warm, it's a warm bed, you get a few meals a day, and you off the streets. I mean, really, that's how bad our society is, that the only place you can guaranteed get a place to stay for free and some food is prison. Like, where has our society gone? And we don't have, politicians that are actually talking about that. So sorry to cut you off, but I just wanted to mention, that it's so, like, our well-being is so important. How we feel is so, so important, because that's what life is. It's that feeling. It's that, that being.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I loved talking to you about this. I think you have just such a beautiful and evolved way of looking at humanity and society as a whole. But yeah, I mean, is there anything else that, I really hope that you win. You guys, I'm sure you have friends in New York, right, in this district, like post on your social media. It's something that I've been doing. Vote for Paperboy Love Prince, do what you can to get it out there, because that's how we're going to take Congress by storm, right, over the next few years and get universal basic income passed. But is there any last message or anything that you would like to send out to anyone who's watching?
Yes. For the last messages, if you're in New York 7th District, of course, vote June 23rd. You can early vote now. And my website is paperboyprince.com. If you'd like to donate, you can do that there. If you'd like to check out what I'm about, you can do that there. You'd like to talk to me directly. I'm one of the only elected officials, or candidates that, gives out my phone number freely and makes it easy. My phone number is paper 92327, paper 92327. So 727-379-2327. And, I'll say this, we also have one of the only one-on-one elections in New York State, and no one is talking about it. It's a one-on-one election, and we have a lot of community support, and we've kind of snuck up on them. So I say all that to say we're gonna shock the world on June 23rd. We're gonna do way better than a lot of people think, and we're gonna win. And we're not just gonna win; we're going to win big, and that is a promise that I make, and I know this for a fact, and I'm super excited. So, and once I actually get in office, I'm going to continue to work with the people and continue to create innovative solutions that actually help us connect better. So thank you so much for having me. And the other thing I was going to say is I'm going to continue rapping as well. I've also been releasing some, rap songs the same way how I was releasing songs during Yang's campaign and helping to promote him that way. And I'm also a delegate for Yang here in New York. So a lot of people have showed me that they voted for me as a delegate for Yang via absentee voting. And but the same way how I made songs during his campaign, I'm making songs during our campaign, about the issues that we're fighting for, about the policies that we're fighting for. And this is to reach a specific community who is not going to check out the press release, who's not going to check out the blurb on the website, or might not check out an interview, but they will, listen to our song on YouTube or something like that. So we're going to keep doing that. Thank you so much. I love you all so much. I don't know if I said earlier, paper. Yeah, it's our time.
Thank you so much for joining. This was an absolute joy. I wish I had you on earlier, but I'm so glad that I did get a chance to talk to you directly, Paperboy. And best of luck. I'm crossing my fingers for you and all the other pro-UBI candidates as well, who's running in New York on Tuesday. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. One love.
All right, you guys. Bye.
Peace. Much love. Much love. Thank you.
That was great. Thank you for, I have to jump on a 7 o'clock call, but thank you so much for coming on.
Much love.
Channel.
We'll keep in contact
yes.
via the DMs.
You're awesome.
Yes.
I wish I had you on earlier, but I'm glad that I did get to reach out to you.
It's all good. The timing is what it is. And you know what? Everything happens how it's supposed to happen. And I'm going to tell you, we are going to win. So I can't wait to be the person who wins. And then they'd be like, wait, we never thought this guy was going to win. And then it happens. That's going to be really
I will
fun.
be so happy if you win. Honestly, you have now moved up my list of people who I really want to win, in the primaries right now. Well, win in general, but obviously the primaries right now.
Right.
So, and I wish Humanity Forward had endorsed you earlier, because I think they just didn't know enough. Because then I feel like people would have been also, from other states all over your campain. But
you know what? It's fine, because I love being the underdog. Again, and I in all honesty, that wasn't a lie. We're getting way more volunteers than what we know what to do with at this point. We're getting by our office just today, I said I was held up by a campaign event because we got so many donations of just like different items for the community. Our office is just filled up. Like, so it's amazing, but I know you have to go. So thank you again. We'll talk soon.
Yes, of course. Good luck.
All right. Peace.
Bye.
Hello. One love. Paper. Yeah. So, thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all for tuning in. Like I said, my name is Paperboy Prince, Paperboy Love Prince. And listen, if you're still listening, you want to help us win the election, here's what you can do. Go to paperboyprince.com and click volunteer or click donate. If you can volunteer, please volunteer. We still need you. And we're going to win, but we need your help. If you want to donate, click donate. And we will use that money to help the community, because that's what we do. And if you can, on June 23rd, we need help. On June 23rd, we need help actually getting the word out there. And on actual election day. So if you're in the area, or if you're in some other area and you want to help out our campaign, come on up on June 23rd and help us work the polls to make sure that the establishment Democrats don't cheat us out of an election. They won't. They won't be able to, because you guys will be there. So, so yes, I'm gonna come on live more. It's over now. I'm gonna come on live more. I got a lot of work to do, but I'm so glad I got to talk to you all. I might hop on Instagram for a bit, now that I think about it. Yes, if you can, please come up. And we're also doing a protest tomorrow. We're doing a big protest tomorrow at Myrtle Broadway. I didn't forget. I just had to answer a text. At Myrtle Broadway at 4 p.m. So if you're free, come through Myrtle Broadway, 4 p.m. Big protest. It's going to be dope. Okay. All right. Much love. Paper. Yeah. Thank you all so much. I've said it all. If you're just tuning in, go on my Twitter, on my YouTube, and watch the whole stream so you can see. Guys, thank you to Paget Kelly for allowing me just to ramble, and just to talk. Because we have a lot to say and we have a unique perspective. Thank you so much, Original Native American. Thank you for your comments. Feels Surreal, what's up? Yolanda Def, what's up? Chris Fraley, Rod Jackal, what's up? Lil 610, Emmanuel Sabino, American Dystopia, Joey Baseball, what's up? Alyssa B, Broke Man, what's up? One love. I wanted to shout out everybody in the comments because I love you. Thank you for making yourself known. Everyone who's watching, I love you as well. It's our time, baby. It's our time. Paper, yeah. It's our time. Yo, thank y'all so much. So tomorrow, 4 p.m., pop out, Myrtle Broadway, having a big protest, big event. Okay, I got to go. I got to get back to the campaign office and handle some stuff, but I may hop back on here soon. Yeah, I may hop here soon and talk. So, we got 5 days, man. We got 5 days. We got 5 days. And we have been working, been blazing through, been super busy. So, hold on one second. Hey, how's it going? I'm on live right now. Is it something? Is this about sending you the subtitles? What'd you say? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's the only name I have. But yeah, you should give him a call. I'm gonna get off because I'm on live, but yeah, I can give you his number when I get off. Okay, yeah. Yes, so dope. So I had a lot of fun doing that. I had a lot of fun doing that live. Okay, I'm about to get off because now I'm checking texts and emails, and I do have a lot of work to do. I'm excited. We're helping the community. You know, I wore the suit because I wanted you guys to actually focus on my words. And you know, sometimes when I wear my outfits, y'all are too caught up in my chain and my other stuff like that. So I wanted to, you know, come at it from that perspective. But thank you so much to Paget Kelly. Thank you so much to all of you all. Again, you can reach out to me anytime. I try to be as responsive as possible. I have to post something on Instagram, so hop on there and say hello. All right, one love. We gotta go. I love you all. It's our time. We're gonna win this election. Listen, if you're listening, please tell 20 friends to vote for Paperboy Prince that live in Brooklyn, that live in Queens, that live in New York. Tell them this is how we win. Tell 20 friends to vote for Paperboy. All right, I love you. Ha, paper, yeah. It's our time. All right, peace.